Thank you, everybody, for joining us once again for the Breath of Life Conversations, a podcast and YouTube station. I am so excited to be here with you guys. I have been I've been away for a bit, and I'm so excited to jump into this next topic with this individual. I have to admit, I don't know a lot about this individual, so you and I get to learn together. And that, of course, is one of my favorite things to do, as you guys know. So, welcome, Miss Claire from Australia. Is that where we're from?
Yes. Yes, I am in Australia.
Go ahead and tell us about yourself, please.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here. So originally I am from England, originally, and I was a professional dancer while I was in England. Then I got swept off my feet by a tall, gorgeous Australian, and here I am. So yeah, I've done lots of things in my journey, as have most people. I went from dancing, then I had children, and that was a massive big change in my life. And I decided that I wanted to try and be the best, healthiest, happiest person and family I could be, so that I could raise my kids, in the best way for them. And I did my primal health coaching certificate, and that worked for a while, and everything was going well. And then I hit, as women do when you hit your 40s, things start to change a bit. And I was starting to question, what is going on with me? How am I, why do I feel different? That kind of thing. And obviously, weight started to go on, and I went on a weight loss journey, and I discovered a guy, Dr. Jade Tita, who does a weight loss program. But he said, um, weight loss for women with their hormones. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, I've never heard of that before. And it started me down a journey. So he talks about, you have to work with your menstrual cycle when you're doing a weight loss journey. And I was like, oh, okay, I've never heard that before. And I am now I know I've recently discovered I've got ADHD. So I understand why when I learn something new, I go down a massive big rabbit hole and I find out everything I possibly can. And I was fascinated by the idea of women's hormones making a difference to our lives. And because mostly we talk about, or all you hear about is, oh, I track my cycle so I know when I'm going to start my period, and it's just about that. And so I went on a massive big deep dive, and I was blown away. I had no idea how much of everything I am and everything I do and think and feel, all my whole cycle, is affected by all my hormones. And we literally are almost four different women every month, because of the different hormones that are up or down, or non-existent during our cycle. And I have a teenage daughter, and I just needed to share it with her, and needed to work out a way of sharing this amazing information in a way that would be easy for her to understand. And also for me, I will read all the books, I will do all the webinars and all of those kinds of things. But when I'm actually coming to living something, I like to have it simple. I have it on display, have it very quick and easy to access. So I'm not going, oh my gosh, there was that thing in that book that I was supposed to be doing. What was that? And doing a deep dive. And so I created charts, and I've created journals and things like that to help me understand and learn, and my daughter understand and learn how different we are in our cycles and how powerful it is for women. And it it just blew my mind that I didn't know that in my 40s, and I had never heard that before. And it is starting to become more accessible, and more women are talking about it now. But still, I talk to so many people in my local area, and they're like, oh my gosh, I never knew that. Really? It's like every single thing that we are and do, down to our memory speed, our vocal ability, whether we sunburn or not, whether we stutter or not. And it's whether we feel strong, whether we're fat burning, or whether we're using up carbs, how we think, whether we're emotional or whether we are logical. And whether we have spatial awareness or whether we're clumsy, there is, it's just intrinsic to everything, and not just like the little cranky bit before you start your period. And so now I've developed my own system underlying my health coaching. It's I've started to share it with other women, because the power that it gives you to understand who you are from a really in deep perspective. For so long I felt like I was broken, like there was something wrong with me, because I thought I was supposed to be the same every day and every week. And when I wasn't, I just used to tell myself, oh, well, I could do that last week and I can't do it this week. I must be rubbish. I must be useless or broken. And I want to help other women understand how awesome we are, and that we're not broken. We are just not supposed to be consistent. So that's my journey and what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, that's and you're right. I've been a nurse for well over a decade and been in medicine for almost two. And it is incredible what we're taught and what we're not taught and what people don't know, and how medicine and science and the focus that we place on certain topics has shifted. And I think as more women get into positions of power and aren't just staying at home, it makes it more important for for science and for medicine to be focusing on what it is that makes us as women tick.
Yeah,
Because when we were just homemakers, right? Easy to ignore when we're having mood swings or when things are changing with us, with our bodies, when we have to
yeah,
run to the bathroom, all the time, right? These things that shift and change. And like you said, things like spatial awareness, memory, all these other things that I'm sure, especially my listeners, because they know that while I'm a medical intuitive and while I'm a nurse, I do not pretend to know absolutely everything that the human body has to offer. And they're probably thinking the same thing of, why has nobody ever talked to me about this, and what these different hormones that are integral to our life,
yeah,
not just for women, but for men too. But we're going to obviously stick with women here in this conversation, just how much we need to not look at women in the workforce in positions of power. We need to normalize the fact that we're normal people. This is not actually
absolutely.
anything new, guys. Like
Yeah.
that's the sad part about this. Women have been having these things happen to
I
them
know,
and
right?
changing, you know so it is incredible. So why don't you take us through just some of what you would consider like the basic bits of information. I know that you say that there are pretty much four, you've already mentioned this, like four different humans that we kind of
Yeah,
become as
yeah.
women, and I'm assuming that you're associating them with four different main hormones that fluctuate in our bodies.
Well, it is about the hormone journey. Yes. And you can kind of, it's funny because some people that talk about it do oversimplify, and I do like the science, and I do like understanding what goes behind it. And I think women are highly intelligent and capable of working out the science, so there doesn't need to be dumbed down to extremes. Um, so I I do like it, it's hard, sorry. Getting my words out. And I know why that is. It's because I'm in freedom phase, and that's not the best time for vocal ability. But so if you start at day one as being the first day of your period, when you start, um, I split the cycle into half being from day one to ovulation, and that has two phases in it. And then from ovulation down to when you start your period again, that has two phases as well, because I don't speak about ovulation as a phase, as in a phase of the cycle. Ovulation, yes, is a phase of the female reproductive cycle, but because it's only technically that 24-hour event, I try not to confuse people by saying, a phase is a longer stretch of time, whereas ovulation is its own special event, that kind of splits the phases up. If you so I call them from when you start your period. So menstruation is the wisdom phase. So that's when you have your lowest base of hormones, and then you start to have estrogen rising. And then when you end your period, you slip into what I like to call daring, because that's as your estrogen is rising, and you get to that peak point of high estrogen levels right at ovulation. So that takes wisdom and daring. And then once you ovulate, because estrogen plummets and then it starts to rise with progesterone again, that phase is harmony. And then as you get to the tail end, when both those hormones drop right down back to zero again, you go through premenstrual phase. I call that phase freedom. So it is about the hormonal journey. And so you've got 4 phases, but you've got the 2 halves, your follicular, which is the first half, and your luteal, which is the second half. Because a simple way to think about it is from day one up to ovulation, everything is rising. You've got your hormone, your estrogen is rising, your energy is rising, your desire to do stuff is rising, your speed and your brain focus and your mood, everything is lifting. And then after ovulation, when you go into your luteal phase and you have harmony and freedom, everything is falling. And you have the little blip of hormones on that journey, but realistically, everything is kind of going back. So we're more resilient in the first half when everything is rising, and then less resilient and more sensitive and prone to stress and all of those kinds of things in levels as we go through the second half and the last 2 phases. Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%. Why did you decide to come up with these different phases? Like, how did you determine the
The
names of them?
names, the
Yeah.
names. Well, because there are lots of things. Some women use the spring, summer, autumn, winter kind of ideals. And yes, they do work in a lot of ways, but some things it didn't quite resonate with me, with how I was thinking and feeling. And also, I wanted it to be really clear for like my daughter, and also to bring to mind the theme of the phase. And I have a son and I have a husband, and I wanted to be able to share it with them. And I know from my experience that generally, if you go, "Oh, I'm in pre-ovulatory phase," men will go, "Ew, I don't want to know about that. Just don't talk to me about that stuff." So I
Sure.
wanted something that I could share, so my daughter can come out and say to my dad, "I'm in wisdom, Dad. Can you just give me a break?" And he'll go, "Oh, okay, yeah, cool. I know what that means." And it's an easy way to share. And also it gives a theme. So wisdom is when you're in your menstrual phase, and for me that's a time when you take time for you, because it's a rest and a reset and a restore and a rejuvenate. And it's a great time to meditate, and we have big picture thinking and all of those kinds of things that allude to wisdom. And then daring is when we are our most outgoing, when we want to do stuff, when we are quick thinking, motivated, can take action, want to get out into the world, and that kind of thing. Harmony is when we flip over into nurturing mode because of progesterone, so you have that nesting feeling. So harmony, you want to create love and connection around you, and with the people in your lives and that kind of thing. And then freedom is generally considered a negative time, PMT, and oh, that's when you're a cranky cow and that kind of thing. But for me, freedom is because all the hormones are dropping, all of those kind of hormone induced moods and feelings start to dissipate. So that's when we can cut through the filters and actually feel authentically who we are. So for me, I wanted to make every single phase have a positive superpower, if you like, and for it also to be easy to remember, and also to be easy to share with my boys. So that's
Absolutely.
where those words came from.
That's beautiful. And it, like you said, it's so easy. It's so easy, it's so quick. You mentioned that you also during this journey of knowledge in this and in creating this system, you started to notice how in these different phases, not just the menstrual cycle is affected, right? Not just
Yeah.
our whether we're bleeding or not, right? But you also noticed how it was playing a role in other aspects of our lives, whether like you mentioned it yourself, because you're in one particular phase now, speaking is maybe a little different.
Yeah.
Can you kind of go into like what will be, I know that you mentioned like how one would feel in a particular phase, but can you give us specifics of like what we might see changing for ourselves in each phase?
Yes. Yes. So there's lots of different aspects to it. I work with my within the Fenway, how I teach things, I teach like 5 pillars of our lives and who we are. So one is focus, so our mindset, our brain, and how that works. Then the next is family, so our relationships, how we connect with those people that are close to us. Food is another one. Fitness and your body and your physicality, and then your fortune, so your work, your business, that kind of thing. So um every every one of those changes every single week. So in wisdom, for example, you our brains are still quite slow, comparatively slow. Our thinking is slower, and we also feel more internally focused, and want to spend time with us. So don't want to be socializing massively, that kind of thing. From a fitness perspective, um, if you are learning something new or trying to do some new kind of fitness, it's probably not a good idea, because our aptitude and our brain speed and our brain capacity and our memory is not at its peak. So so it's better for spending time to dream. And I know another lady that teaches this. She calls this phase dream. So you're meditating, you're kind of discussing what do I want my life to look like, and you're planning the things that you do to suit the phases that are coming, so that you can optimize everything you do. So our energy is low, but it is slowly starting to grow. Our bodies build more muscle in the first half of the cycle. And so it's that slow but growing kind of phase. And then when you hit daring is daring is what I feel women are taught that we are supposed to be all the time. And this is
Yeah.
why we feel a disconnect with ourselves, because it's like, well, yes, but only when you're in daring, because you're not supposed to be like that the rest of the time, because the hormones are interfering with that. So daring is the time when you want to get out and do things. Our energy is rising and it peaks right at ovulation. Our brain speed, our memory is growing and getting at our peak. Our physical strength is growing, our ability to learn new things. You want to get out in the world, you want to share your stuff, you want to explore, you want to try new things. And do you know what? It's amazing. We feel confident. Our bone structure apparently actually changes as well, to make us be,
Mm,
brighter. Our vocal tone
okay.
changes as well to make us be more feminine, that kind of thing, because we want to go out and find somebody to mate with and create a baby. That's the whole hormonal drive behind it. And so that's like the great time. Um, so you can do everything and anything you want in daring. But I find too, it's a very logical time. So I'm like to my husband, don't come to me expecting sympathy and all of that when I'm in daring, because that's like, I'm like, what's your problem? How can I fix it? Let's go. It's like,
Yeah.
don't, I'm not emotional there. Come next week for that. So and that's we are that ball busting kind of gals in daring. And that's why it's such a big flip and shift when you hit, after you ovulate, you hit harmony, and it's like, where did that go? Oh my gosh. all of a sudden, you just want to nest, you want to cozy up, you don't want to go to the gym and do all of those things. And our strength and our stamina drops considerably. Our desire to get out disappears. You want familiar. Our brain speed slows down. Our we can have a tendency to stutter more,
Mm,
because everything is kind of dropping and nesting. um, we have amazing communication skills, though. We want to be generous and nurturing and loving and building and growing. um, and I mean, you can still do fitness, you just have to do it in a different way.
mhm.
We start craving junk foods and comfort foods and things like that, you know. So, and we are everything slows down. Progesterone is kind of has a sedative type of effect. Um, I know for me, when I after I ovulate, my estrogen plummets. So I have like 1.5, 2 days where I have complete exhaustion, and I'm no good to anybody until the both progesterone and estrogen start to rise again, and then I feel a bit more energy, but I'm still like, yeah, I'd rather just sit and watch a movie, thanks, that kind of thing. My my son has noticed about me. Apparently, we have a chart on the fridge. Um, that we move, my daughter and I move our magnets around the phases. And on that chart, it says she may be feeling this in this phase. These things are a good idea for her to do, or things. Don't even think about doing these things. So it has like a graduated chart. And my
Nice.
12-year-old son comes up to me and he goes, Mama, when is it that you're in harmony? And I'm like, why is that, bud? And he went, oh, it's just, I like going shopping with you when you're in harmony because you buy me more stuff.
Goodness.
I know. So he has noticed and
Wow.
taken note of where I am and what my behaviors are like in the cycles, to just tweak it for his own benefit. So yeah, so
Ooh,
the slight warning, you have to be watchful for cheeky little ratbag sons. And
I
then when you
love
go
that.
then when you go down into freedom, that's the time he goes, I'll ask you next week, mum, just don't worry about it for now, because
Yeah.
that's when all the hormones are plummeting, and that's why we get cranky. It's almost like you had a sugar crash, or you've gone cold turkey withdrawal of your caffeine, or whatever, gives you energy. And so we are a lot more critical in this phase, which can be good as long as you're aware that you're more critical in this phase, and you turn it to things like your wardrobe. This is the time when I always go into my wardrobe and go, oh my God, I hate everything in here. It has to go. It has to go. Let's clear it out. Let's clear it out. Let's clear it out. And I go, oh yeah, I'm in freedom. That makes sense. Because we are analytical. And if we turn that to ourselves, it can be very self-destructive, and criticize ourselves. Everything is wrong and bad and dramatic. We also have no filters, I find, because the progesterone has disappeared and you don't have that nurturing, loving thing. No filters. So it's always the best time to not connect or catch up with your in-laws in this phase.
Hmm.
um and yeah, and
A good thing to note.
yeah, yeah. And
Or those friends that like they only come to you with drama. This is
yeah.
not the time to go and have
Yeah,
coffee.
it's like, do you want me to be honest? I'll give you honest, but really, onion. Save it for another day. And so our strength and our fitness, like right at the end of your cycle, you just kind of go, yeah, I'll just go for a walk now, because the strength and the stamina is really bottoming out. And um and the crankiness comes in, and you also crave more comfort foods and things like that. And I did read one study that said that at the end of freedom and into the beginning of wisdom, we can actually store like up to 15% more body fat on us. So that whole period belly and, oh, I just feel frumpy and horrible. It's a thing. But as long as you're aware that this happens to your body, you can go, okay, well, but I'm not even going to bother looking now, because there's no point in trying to do positive body image when I'm self-critical and I'm storing and bloating and stuff. So,
Yes.
And that's the thing. It's like once you understand who you are and why you are like you are, you can set better boundaries. You can take power in saying, you know what, I'm not going to do that this week because I know that I'm super creative. Creativity is another thing that it affects. Freedom is a perfect time for being creative. If you if you are artistic or musical or those kinds of things, you know, when you just get inspiration and that comes out of nowhere, that'll be in freedom. And you can just go, okay, I'm going to set aside a whole load of stuff. So if I feel blocked somewhere else, it doesn't matter because I'll wait till freedom. Or if I've got, something that I really need to build, I'll wait till daring because that's when I know I can do it. And so it gives you power to set boundaries, to take more control of your life and to be nicer to yourself too. I'm a lot more gentle to myself now because I understand why I am like I am. And it's not me just saying, oh, well, I'm useless. I'm moody. There's something wrong with me. I'm broken. I'm like, no, I'm just a woman and I am inconsistent. That's how I'm supposed to be.
Yes.
So
In people, let me rephrase that. For those who are working with you, there we go, for your clients, your students,
yeah.
things like that, do you, I'm assuming you don't just teach these phases, you also teach how to work within them, as you were just describing. But for those who have maybe been on birth control, who are just off of it because they were trying to have a baby, or have always never really had a very normal, what we would consider normalized cycle, which my my listeners understand I hate the word normal. There is no such thing as
Yeah. Yeah.
normal. There's so you have to kind of like work within that. How do you go about explaining the okay, so now that you are in kind of a new understanding of your body and you're trying to better understand it through the understanding these phases, but maybe you have a crutch that you are trying to get over using or having to get around, how do you explain that to women?
So it depends on what their main goals are and what their
Sure.
focuses are. Generally, it's like women will like people I speak to, my clients and stuff, they'll have one main focus that they want to change. They want to improve their business or they want to lose weight or they want to just increase their relationships with their family, that kind of thing. um so the first thing is awareness, self-awareness. And obviously, yes, every single woman is unique and every single woman's hormones are unique and we respond to them differently. Some people are hypersensitive and some people not so much. So I we do like a whole thing of tracking. So I've done meditations and check-ins and things like that. So and um little check boxes. Okay, so how was your sleep? How would you rate, your mood, your emotions, your stress levels, all of those kinds of things on a daily basis for a couple of cycles so that you can start to see and be aware that you have your unique pattern. And sometimes even that can be game changing for women. I've had women go, oh my gosh, it was so amazing. I was in freedom and I didn't absolutely blast all my work colleagues because I just went, no, I'm in freedom. I can just breathe and let it go and speak to them tomorrow. And it can be the most simple thing. Um, if you're doing more complex changes, then having like Fitbits and things like that to track
Mhm.
your stats and stuff is a good idea, and journals to write things down and that kind of thing. And then it's also knowing you're going to go through things like if you're trying to start a new habit or give up something, there are optimum times. So it's like the best time to start a new habit is in daring,
Mm.
because you're more likely to stick to it if you start in daring, give it a good kick, and then um, it's like a head start. And then you go, if okay, I'm in harmony now and freedom and it's going to be more tricky, then you can take strategies and tips to help you stay on track, that kind of thing. And if things go wrong, you can go, okay, I fell off the wagon today, but I'm in freedom. So I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm just going to call a friend. She's going to boost me because we've made that arrangement and we're going to, and then I'll just pick it up again tomorrow, that kind of thing. And then as you go through your journey, the more aware you get, then you find yourself starting to change the things that you do. So the things that you plan in, for example, your business, if you're an entrepreneur, or at work, or with your husband in your relationship, you're going to go, okay, well, you want to go out for some fun, exciting thing. So let's book that in daring. Let's not do that in harmony where I just want to sit and smudge on the sofa. So you start to change your activities to suit the phases, because you understand the best time for you to do the different things. And it is a long journey, because we've just scraped the surface today. There is so much more complexity into it when you start really going into it. So
Yes.
it's kind of like, you have to go in cyclical waves of, iterations. So the first bit is you just track it, you get to know, then you get to understand who you are, then you can tweak things, then you can optimize. And so it's like a continuous journey, because then added onto that, as you go through your life, as you said, you have got when you're young and stuff, you're not
Yes.
uh it starts to get like a steady cycle, or not. And then when you go through motherhood, it changes again. And then when you hit your 40s and start going through perimenopause and menopause, then the whole thing changes again. So it's like iterations of, but the more you keep doing and learning and growing, the more you understand your body, the more you can support yourself in the way that you need, because you understand inside really deeply what you need as a reproductive female. So
Yes. Oh, I loved it so much. And like you said, we've just scratched the surface of this. Do you have information around like women who are going through pre or in are already in their menopausal stage, and how that changes? Because I would love to have you back on to discuss
yes,
all
I
that.
I I do, because that's the journey that I'm just going through now as we speak, kind of thing. And yes,
Hallelujah.
oh, it's huge. It's mind blowing. And you know what? It's only now, like in the last 5 years or so, that they're actually even studying this stuff.
Yes.
It's really sad when you think about it. I listened to a podcast the other day by a wonderful woman called Stacey Sims, who specializes in physiology and the fitness side of it, and stuff. And she said it's like some awful statistic, like only 2% of the studies that are done on supplements are done on women.
Hmm?
2%. It's appalling. And you just go, there is so much stuff. I've also recently been diagnosed with ADHD, and so I'm diving into that side of things too, because the menstrual cycle affects ADHD symptoms as well. um and it creates huge issues going through perimenopause with ADHD. It's like expanding on it. And there are scientists and doctors, female doctors now going, this is something that needs to be studied, because the amount of studies that have been done up till now are just like a drop in the ocean. Because hey, women are too inconsistent and we don't give perfect results, so they don't like studying. They don't like studying it
Yes.
because it's not a finite result. They get, oh, we can't conclude from this because you, and it's like, well, yeah, but we need to know that because we're living it.
Yes.
So
Well, and women in general are just such a beautiful example of why you need good, proper sample sizes. It's
yeah,
not about having a study that only studies 30 people, and you can then infer from that that this is everything, that this is
yeah,
for the rest of the 9 billion people, right, that
yeah,
exist on the planet. No, because of how different everybody is, women specifically, we need to have large, incredibly
yeah,
large sample sizes for every single study that is being done that impacts women,
yeah,
because we have to have a much broader understanding of what happens to women. Can we start categorizing?
Yeah.
Like, not that I feel like we need to have further labels in this world, we don't, but I think that we can get a much better sense for women, for doctors, for health practitioners across the way that say, you know what, there have been studies done that are large enough that have started to kind of show that, whether it's your genetic makeup, whether it's your ethnicity, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's your age. I think there are things that we don't have to say, well, it's your label,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. It's an
averages, right?
affecting factor. Yeah, yeah. And also,
Exactly.
they need to they need to do the studies and take their data points in every phase, because it's like, what's the
Yes.
point of taking? I went to my doctor and I said, I don't know what's going on with my hormones. Can you test me? And they did one blood test. I'm like,
Yes.
what's that going to show? It's
Not
like,
a thing.
and I, even it was,
Yes.
and I said, does it matter where I am in my cycle? And she went, and it was a female doctor, she went, oh no. And I went, how does it not matter when if you're trying to measure, you know I'm not going to go on day 3 because they'll all be low. So it's like, how will you know
Yes.
if my progesterone levels are correct? And it
Right.
just blew my mind.
And so this is, you bring up such a good point too, of that I feel like, especially right here, we need to say, and we'll say it again when you come back on again,
Yeah.
that labs are a snapshot in time. Guys, you've heard
Mm,
me say this a number of times. You cannot base your entire being off of one set of labs. You can't even base it off of 2 sets. Like she was
yeah.
saying, you have 4 different phases, 4 different weeks of your life, maybe a little shorter, maybe a little longer, depending on what kind of an individual you are and how your body is responding, the different environmental factors that are happening in your life. Understand that if you are trying to do what she is saying about tracking, you truly have to understand that you have to give yourself grace as you're starting this. We will have Claire back on and we will talk about, because I know I've got a lot of listeners who are in their menopausal or just before
Yeah.
their menopausal state and are probably really curious about your thoughts and opinions on that whole area of life.
Melting pot of, yes.
So we will definitely have you back on, but please, for now, please tell all of the listeners and viewers where can they find you, how can they work with you if they are interested.
Okay, so my website is femway.com, so FEMMWAY, and I have Instagram, which is at Femway Life, and Facebook as well is the same. And I'm creating a coaching program that I'm in the process of updating my website and everything at the moment, but I do have on my website an arc, what I call a persona quiz. So naturally we sit with our personalities, there will be one phase that we feel most comfortable in. If you're a mothering, nurturing kind of person, you're most likely going to be most comfortable in harmony. So I've developed a quiz that asks you a few questions and then will hopefully point you towards the persona and the phase that you will feel most comfortable in. And then there's a whole like a report that gives you all the different ones, because we do cycle through all of them. But as I say, you're going to have one persona that feels most like you and where you're comfortable. So I have that on my website, and there are a couple of other downloadable little charts and things like that to get people going. I am in the middle of creating a beginner's course as well to learn the basics and stuff. Yeah, so it's all busy, busy, busy.
Don't worry, guys. If you happen to miss it, I will make sure that all of these links are down in the show notes below. Thank you so much, Claire, for joining us, and I'm so
You're
excited to
very
have you
welcome.
on again. Oh, you guys, seriously, this is such a trending topic right now, and both in good
Mm.
and bad ways. We are going to be spending some time cutting through the BS, making sure that you have all of the information that you need to make sure that you have best chance of making the most informed decision for you personally, yourself,
Mm,
without having to worry about whether or not it's a one size fits all, because as we know, that life is not like that. So
absolutely
once
not.
again,
And
exactly.
just when you think you've got it nailed, it's going to change again.
Exactly. And we're going to, I through these two, through this and any other times, at least one more time, but any other times that we have clear on, we're going to make sure that you guys understand that you can go through these phases and go through these cycles and go through these changes in times in your life without having to be super upset with yourself, and you can give
Yeah,
yourself grace.
yeah,
Thank you so much.
absolutely.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mwah!
You're very
Love,
welcome. It's lovely
love
to be
it.
here.
Guys, this has been another episode of Breath of Life Conversations. I'm so excited to hear your guys' thoughts. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and share with anyone who you feel like needs this information today. I will see you next time on the next Breath of Life Conversations. Bye, everyone.